I want to share a cool story, a personal story. I had the joy yesterday of visiting with an old friend from college 50 years ago, half century ago, and he's a COVID survivor. And we're talking about a tough case, 45 days in the hospital, 5 days on a ventilator. Most of those people didn't make it.
Yes.
And one of the things that he shared with me, being in the hospital that long, and I want the listeners to really take this to heart, is that he found himself trying to be the encourager of his staff. He's there day in and day out. They are in their 8-12 hours, they go home. They're tired. They're watching people die every day. They're emotionally exhausted. And almost with either through some spiritual blessing or just tough character, he found himself, I'll use his first name, Steve found himself saying, I'm going to beat this. Doc, I feel like get up and up. He may have felt like shit. He said, I'm going to get up and run around this bed today. And in doing so, he let the staff know that he's worth paying every attention to possible and doing and praying for and hoping for his survival. And I really believe that was part of his survival, was that constant reminder, encouragement of those around him.
He was ministering to those around him.
He was ministering, and he said that. I found myself ministering to them, okay? But there is something about those patients, and you and I have known them over the years, that have that, not only can do it in life, but I can beat this, and I am going to beat this. They may not, but they're not going to go down without making the point. I'm going to beat
the attitude is very important. I think I told you I treated Bobby Dodd for his terminal illness, and he was like that. Yeah. Well, that brings he just brought up something. I mean, this is today's news. We're going to hit on two things kind of quickly. What's that say?
COVID to blame as U.S. life expectancy falls.
Okay, everybody heard that. It was announced 2 days ago. Life expectancy in the United States in all 50 states fell for the first time in like 100 years. It's continually going up because we have Lipitor and blood pressure and mammography and stuff. And
it didn't just
down.
Pause. It fell.
It
fell a lot.
It fell a lot. And it fell a lot because of one thing only. And that was the COVID deaths and the delayed diagnoses that COVID caused. So there were two causes of increased mortality. All-cause mortality went up, and I think, and when you read this article, the very first thing they say after people like his friend who didn't die, that died, was suicides and drug-related fentanyl-laced deaths. And we know a lot about those up here in the mountains. So that's just
diseases of desperation. I really want to jump on that and hammer home on this, because this is where we have to get some accountability in our culture. An actuarial is someone that works for an insurance company, and they go through and they look at deaths, all causes of death by age, by region, by anything possible that an insurer can look at that person who wants to buy life insurance and price their insurance.
More people will die of hypothermia in Maine than in Florida, but more in Florida will die of heat stroke than in Maine.
So they're pricing the product, the life insurance, and therefore they've got to know, they're doing the bet. Are we going to get more money out of them than we're going to spend on them, right? In the first and second years of COVID, all-cause mortality in this country went up, and didn't just go up a little bit, it went up a huge amount, okay? So if you say, well, it went up 10%, then and it was all COVID, that 10% of the excess mortality were all COVID deaths, you would say that's a COVID problem.
Right.
You understand? Mm-hmm. But if it went up 140% in the working age group, that's the otherwise healthy people, and only 10% of that was COVID, you've got 30% increase in all-cause mortality. For what reason? We got to get to the bottom of that. I will predict here, I'll go on this thing and predict, that the treatment offered by the WHO and the CDC of the world, run, hide, shut down, stay away from each other, don't be productive in society, all of that kind of stuff, is the excess all-cause mortality deaths. In other words, contrary to our profession where it's first do no harm, they first did harm.
Well, but the thing just said that fentanyl overdoses and suicide and delayed diagnoses, I mean, those are all attributed to it. I got one more thing we got to hit here because this is the most important thing we're going to talk about. Read it loud.
Congresswoman's wife dies after taking herbal remedy for diabetes and weight loss.
Okay. I have preached on here, Ray has preached on here, the supplement industry, herbal remedy industry is
Nutraceuticals.
totally nutraceuticals is totally unregulated.
Totally. It's the Wild West.
I think it's somewhere in the neighborhood of $1/3 trillion business. What's that? $333 billion business in this country a year. I had a patient yesterday who has osteoporosis, taking a drug, who is then recommended to take 1,500, 2,000 milligrams of calcium per day and take a vitamin D supplement. It's just, those are published guidelines we've talked about when you go get one of these drugs, Prolia or
All
something.
right, wait a minute, because I know time, but you're venturing into something. A herbal treatment or a herbal supplement is not a vitamin.
Correct. I'm
So-
going. Wait a minute. I'm going. Let me go.
You going there?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Recommended to take vitamin C and to take
Right.
calcium. So I said, how much vitamin D and calcium? So how much vitamin D are you taking? He says, well, I don't really know. He says, I've got a product that I got on the internet from a nutrition that has vitamin D and some heart stimulants and stuff in it, and it's got vitamin D in it because it helps prevent prostate cancer. So what he has gotten off the internet is probably touted as being a supplement for cancer reduction for prostate and everything else, and has vitamin D in it. Turn that thing over. It's made in China, and it's got 98 kinds of roots in it. Point being, if you are going to buy a vitamin, which you don't probably need, eat some more celery and lettuce, or you're going to buy an over-the-counter vitamin D, go buy it at a pharmacy, turn that thing over. It's going to have a stamp on there that says US Pharmacopeia. You'll know it's going to be made by somebody who makes drugs. And don't get it from don't go to GNC. I mean, GNC's got
Let me
junk.
put more succinctly, because here's the point you're making. It's the Wild West buying products from the nutraceutical industry. It is unregulated. Unless they're found killing someone, no one's looking, no one cares.
Well, they can't even get it off the market if they're
Can't get
killing
off the market
somebody.
unless they're killing somebody. So you need to be understanding that you could be putting in your body a product that's ground up in some sweatshop in Pakistan on some dirty alley.
Yeah, well,
Okay?
it is.
It's got a nice fancy label on it.
And
it's got a nice
capsule.
fancy name, and they got people running around that are real fancy looking movie stars saying how it made them more virile. Okay, you have no idea what you're getting in your body. So Bill's point is, if you are going to do this, buy from somebody who's scared of being sued. Somebody big enough with a big enough name
Go
that
to
they're
Costco, go to Walmart, buy it in their pharmacy.
because at least they are going to do some level of checking. My point is,
They're not putting it on the shelf if it doesn't meet
I
some.
don't know what their standards are, but
Right, but
but
you-
you're- odds are in your-
we do know that if you go down to Ingles and buy a thing of vitamins, if you roll it over, it's got US Pharmacopeia in there.
Because
It
they
is
know
meaning-
there's certain liabilities before
Yeah.
it hits their shelf. Just the liability alone
Yeah,
that it's coming from them.
Yeah,
their reputation.
I'm not going to tell you everything in there is
I will tell you that. I will
gonna do
tell
you
you
any
that.
good. A lot of that stuff's not going to do you any good, but I think you won't get harmed.
He's got to
from
get
it.
out of here. But let me say this: but America, when you threw out the number of the amount of money being spent on this crap, it exceeds the amount of money that Americans are spending on primary care. I'd much rather you spend your money having a good relationship with a good primary care doctor than do this stuff.
Okay,
I'm going to say this, and I'm not going to mention which ones. If you're advertising this to me, first and foremost, I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
If it's an advertised product, I'm not buying it. If you have to spend the money, if you guys don't come here and say, hey, are you taking this and this because it's good, I don't spend the money. I take a vitamin D I take a magnesium pill, I take zinc, and I take vitamin C. And I take those vitamins came from a reputable location, and those are the only vitamins I take over and above my prescription pills.
All right, I want to emphasize one more
See
time.
what I'm saying?
Okay, who was this?
A congressman's. Oh, I said
Congressman's wife.
yeah.
Okay, here's why I think that's important. One, she's economically privileged. She's educationally privileged. So it's not like she didn't have enough sense to come in out of the rain. So she was led down a path, Primrose path, by somebody. And the conspiracy theories and everything else, they love the internet and they love these supplements. But a congressman's wife's death might stimulate the Congress to finally come to making a law that would regulate the industry. It might be better if it was a senator or a
Good
president's
luck with that,
wife.
but you're talking about $1 trillion industry here, so
They have
spend a lot of
huge
money.
amount of lobbyists.
They spend a lot of money to stay out.
All right, I got nothing else. You got a joke?
No, I don't even know. Oh, yeah, well, I do. I have.
Let's hear the joke.
3 moles crawled in a tunnel.
3 moles.
3 moles crawled in a
Crawled in a
tunnel.
tunnel.
Yeah, the first one smelled sugar. The second one smelled cinnamon, and the third one smelled molasses. Molasses.
Thank you for Georgia cancer specialist affiliated with the Northside Comprehensive Cancer Center has brought you this. I'm not sure they're going to be too proud of it, but they brought
like
it to
molasses
you.
like
They do.
anyone else.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
That was all-star political panel right after this.